What is up, everybody? Welcome back to Off the Record. I'm your host, RJ Starcevic. I'm joined with my new co-host here, Celia. First of all, I
Hi,
want to bring you in, introduce you. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. How about you, RJ?
I'm doing good, doing good. Excited to have another episode this week, and we're joined by our great guest, Mr. Kris Wright, who has changed it up a little bit in the past weekend. We got you straight off your first weekend in the Xfinity Series this year for Brandon-Built Motorsports. Like kind of we were just talking about, it wasn't the result I'm sure you would have wanted, but just getting comfortable in the seat. You got a lot of races left in the season. I mean, how are you looking forward to that?
Yeah, just really excited to be with Brandon Bill, have this opportunity. Here, surrounded by some really great people and a lot of knowledge. I worked with my crew chief, Doug Randolph, last year for the last two races of the Young's truck season, and we did pretty well. Finished 13th at Martinsville there, and we had a really good truck for Phoenix, but we had some issues there. That's just the way it was. But yeah, really excited to get back with Doug and a lot of the other guys here at BMS. So just looking back at Watkins wasn't the greatest weekend. Like I told you a few minutes ago, we were running up there with some drivers that some full-time guys, which I was really happy to be around. And looking at the results for the guys I was running around, it would have been really cool to see where we ended up at the end of the race. I'm sure top 15, 16 was in the bag, but just stuff happens, I guess.
Yeah, it happens. Do you feel like those Xfinity cars, like, obviously you drove them before for Sam Hunt last year as well, but do you feel like they're more comparable to like the ARCA cars that you drove on the road course this year, or the trucks? Like, what were you able to take anything from those?
They drive differently than both of them, especially when you get up to that last 5% of grip, through the S's. You're kind of always on that edge. And the cars act differently. So just trying to understand that again. And, going back to my Sam Hunt season last year, I didn't have a really good frame of reference for, the Xfinity car, the truck, to the ARCA car, because I was just so new to the stock cars in general. So I couldn't really pick out the minute differences between them. But having a better frame of reference coming back this year it was just kind of surprising how much different these cars really are.
I was going to ask, you have a lot of experience in a lot of different types of cars, like the open wheel and sports cars, obviously. So what made you come back to stock cars and really get into it and go to trucks, to Xfinity and ARCA?
Yeah, so that's interesting. So actually it was COVID. I was supposed to be, what was supposed to happen was 19. I was over in the UK running British F3. And then I had a contract for FIA F3 2020. And we were going to see how that panned out for 2021. But I was supposed to be over there for, up until this year, and then come back and try to get some IndyCar starts this year and maybe do a full season next year. But then COVID happened and just kind of threw a wrench into my plans there. And Chip Ganassi is one of the family friends of ours, and had a meeting with him in April of 20. And he just kind of pointed me in the direction, put me in contact with some people for NASCAR, and here I am. So,
Has it reeled you in yet? Are you looking to make the switch back to IndyCar yet or not?
No, I don't think I'll be over there.
Nice.
But people have asked me, you ever going to do any of the long races in IMSA? And I haven't totally knocked that out. If there's a good opportunity, I'll take advantage of that. But no, I like the stock cars, and everything has its ups and downs. So but no, I like where I am right now.
Good.
For sure.
Good.
Yeah, that's awesome. I know me personally, I'm a big lover of the Xfinity series. So like when we were talking about, when I heard you were coming back to Xfinity, I was like, great, get to see Kris Wright in the race car. Obviously you're not racing Daytona, which sucks because I'm going to Daytona. I thought I was going to see you there, but it's not. But you'll be in the car for, what is it, eight more races this year?
Yeah, 8 more races. Not doing Daytona, Talladega, or Texas, but all the other ones I'm chalked up to
So you're liking it in the stock cars. I mean, you're having fun. It's a different challenge than anything you've ever done, right?
Yeah, it's still so much different. I'm still learning. I just had a heart to heart with some of the guys in the shop, and I'm just trying to learn. Trying to pull all the information I can out of them. And, I still feel like a rookie, just because I have to relearn literally everything that I've learned in motorsports. So just trying to stay on that horse that people call a learning curve.
Do you feel like racing at like road courses like this past weekend gives you a little bit of like an edge as well, or do you feel more comfortable with the traditional ovals?
Um, it's it's a double-edged sword. I understand the road course racing a lot more than I understand the ovals, but the problem that I have in the road course racing is the tools that are in my bag in a stock car are so much different than the tools I had in the prototypes of the open wheel cars. So if I want to go think one way about a car or about a corner, I'm led down a very, very poor path because my road course knowledge is deep, but it's only for one specific kind of racing, and that's downforce cars or open wheel cars or prototypes or whatever. And it's so foreign to this. So I'm really trying my hardest to separate what I want to do, what my brain wants me to do, and just focus on one of these. So it's a double-edged sword for sure.
Interesting.
Do you think simulator time ever helps with that? Do you get much like sim time? Do you try it? Do you think it helps you as a driver? Because I know a lot of people talk about it, and some people say, "Oh, I do stuff in the sim." Some people don't at all. I mean, is that something that you kind of look towards to help you out?
Yeah, I mean, the simulator stuff for the ovals is, I think it's a lot more helpful because you can run a bunch of different lines. And it's even true with road course racing. Road course racing in the prototypes or open wheel cars, there might be, if there's a specific corner that's different, you can run this line or that line. But in the stock cars, you can be fast 1,000 different ways around a racetrack, and road courses or ovals. And that's just something I'm still trying to learn. It's not a knife edge like the road course racing is. There's so many different variables in these cars that you can work with. I'm still trying to learn all the tools that can help me. So just trying to familiarize myself more and more with these cars.
This weekend in the Cup Series, like it was most noted that there were so many people coming from other racing professions and trying out NASCAR either for the first time, second time, third time. Like Kimi Räikkönen most notably was racing in the Cup Series. So you had so many of those drivers, so many road ringers. Even on the Xfinity side, there's road ringers that still are coming over every weekend that just load the field entirely.
Yeah.
So are those kind of the challenges that a lot of those guys are facing? Like, they're so good at what they do, whether it's in a Formula One car or an IMSA car, but it's such a different challenge converting your racing style from that to a stock car, right?
Yeah, I mean, you look at some of these, I want to call them like current legends, from IMSA, like you got Andy Lally and Spencer Pumpelly, and even Allmendinger, coming from Indy cars and stuff. And, obviously AJ is unbelievable this year and the past few years. But you look at some of these other guys. I mean, Andy Lally is like one of the winningest drivers in IMSA history and has, I don't know how many, watches has from Daytona or Sebring wins or whatever. But, you come over here and it's not that he's struggling. It's just he's so used to driving a different kind of car, a car that's meant to go right and left, brake deep, get on throttle super early. There's just so much, I want to call it slop in these cars, that us road course guys aren't used to. The transitions from right to left or braking, they take so much longer, and there's so many more things you can feel in these cars that are on board the car. Like when the suspension compresses, it compresses, I don't know, 10 times what it does in a IMSA car. So it's just so much longer, and there's so many different things that you got to deal with, and it's really kind of trying to say this PG, but you got to really kind of balance the car, and it's almost like a romantic kind of poem with these cars. You got to be super, super smooth with them, and you can't do anything abruptly because these cars won't take kindly to it.
Yeah. mentioning that you used to drive cars that were made to go both directions as opposed to one that is mainly used to go left, what would you say was like the biggest learning curve getting into a stock car?
Oh God, everything.
I imagine it's a long list, but if you can pick out one.
Everything. Man, that's hard. It just pretty much the ovals. I mean, my first time on an oval was June 4th or 5th of 2020.
Mhm.
So just the oval racing and the approach you take to it is just so much different than the approach you take to road course racing.
That was kind of your schedule, if I can remember. That's what a lot of your schedule was based on last year, right? When you were running, but because you ran truck races and you ran Xfinity races. I think truck races were the ones you tried to get the oval experience on last year, right? With Youngs. And so do you feel like that helped you a lot? Did you kind of base your schedule that way on purpose? Like, all right, I want to run the ovals here and then do some road courses in Xfinity, or was it something that just kind of happened?
I was slated to do the full-time truck deal. And then the Sam Hunt opportunity came up and, want to take advantage of that. We saw there were 7 road course races on the schedule last year, and being with Sam was really great. And, we expected a decent amount of, performance out of that program. And we got it. We just had some bad luck. We had some really great runs like MidOhio. I think we were 6th with 5 to go or so, and we were faster than the 3 cars in front of us. I passed them earlier in the race, and we got taken up by the 19 there, and that was a run that was cut short. Indianapolis, we didn't unload well, but we kept changing the car and making it better and better, and I think I was in 12th or 13th or something like that, right before I tried to take the car to the moon. But no, I mean, we had some really good runs, and just stuff was, cut short, abruptly by other things. But no, it's just one of those things, we expected a lot, and, we were where I had hoped to be, running in the top 15, top 10 at some points. We had some other weekends that stuff didn't fall our way, and, some, electrical gremlins and just some minor things that kind of put a damper on our weekends. But it's just, trying to understand these cars on the road courses it's a sport all on its own, because there's so much different.
Welcome back to Off the Record. So Kris, obviously coming from a smaller team, there is a giant curve with that as well. How have people in the garage kind of been receptive and welcoming to you as you make your jump back into Xfinity?
Yeah, so it's been unbelievably welcoming over here at Brandonville. I mean, my experience with smaller teams is I definitely seem to prefer it right now at this part of my career. There's nothing, inhibiting the line of communication to me, or inhibiting the, I want to say, ability to learn and pull information from these guys, because everyone's just focused on, one car, one driver, and everyone's just trying to help everyone get better and learn. And I really like that. I mean, I was really happy with the way we ran at MidOhio this year in the Bruce Cook car for the ARCA race. And that was like a breath of fresh air for me. So it was just really great. Single car team, I feel at home here. Everyone's rooting for everyone, and really happy to be here.
Yeah, for sure. The smaller team. I love the smaller teams personally. You mentioned the ARCA deal, those races that you've gotten this year to just run some ARCA races, whether they're road courses or something else. Like, do you feel like that's just like you said, it was kind of like a sigh of relief? Is those kind of good things to help you just get some seat time and things like that?
Yeah, I mean, the MidOhio ARCA race was really good. I think we definitely should have won that race, but some issues with another car at the end there. But no, it's almost like a comfort thing. Like Connor Mozak this weekend ran pretty well up at the Glen, and he went out and practiced and had a really good understanding of what he wanted to feel and what he wanted to get out of the car, because he ran 40 some laps the day before in the ARCA car. So yeah, I mean, it's always helpful to get seat time prior to a race.
Yeah, for sure. Sammy Smith too. Sammy Smith.
Yeah.
He had run that ARCA race, then he goes and finishes third in the Xfinity race. So seat time's just in general very, very important, especially for drivers. I mean, Sammy's just a young guy, kind of just trying to learn all these race cars, and for drivers like you that are coming from other racing professions, also trying to learn these race cars, it's so vastly just important to get that time right.
Yeah, exactly.
For sure. It's a very, very important. And that MidOhio race, man, I was rooting for you. I was sitting there, I'm like, man, it's like Kris Wright got the lead here. He's making something happen. And that was kind of like, I couldn't tell if that was like a strategy thing. I don't know. Like on the ARCA broadcast, sometimes it's just hard to really tell what's going on. But all of a sudden I look at the board and Kris Wright's in the lead. I'm like, all right, something down here. You managed it for a good bit.
Yeah, that was a race that I don't fully agree with the rules on the ARCA deal, because that was a rain race. And I guess the rules are you can't go from. So what we did was we came in halfway, we put slicks on, and my crew chief just said, hey, we want you to just stay on the track for 5 laps, and then you'll start, making speed on everyone else. And we were getting down to rug cutting time. I think it was 8 to go or 9 to go, whatever it was. And we reeled a really, really big lead from John Hunter back to us. I think we were third at that point. Second was right in front of us, and John Hunter was maybe a corner ahead, but we had the pace to get to him before the checkered flag. But because everyone else went rain tires in the first stage to rain tires in the second stage, I'll call it, when that last caution came out, they went to dry tires, and the rules stated that if I pitted, I couldn't put slicks back on. I couldn't put new tires back on. So effectively, everyone else ran on 3 sets, and I had 2 sets. And we fully expected for me to get run over there at that last restart. And some way, somehow, we made it out in front and had quite a gap back to third place. But Taylor hung on and elbowed me out of the way there.
Yeah, he freaking body slammed you. I was like, different strategies there. I was like, I'm gonna see what the racing is here. All right, Gray's up to him. Let's see what happens. We get a battle for the win, and then it's like, nope, boom.
Yeah, and like the one thing, like I understand that, but like the line, I kept, when I watched the video, and people were asking me, why I took that corner so wide, was because the lower part of that corner where you want to be was still slick as can be. And that's what happened. You just went down there and got really loose. And I told him, I'm like, you can't be in the top 5 and not know about that wet patch. Like you have to know. Right. And he was like, no, I he's apologized, and, I respect him for that. But yeah, it was just one of those things.
I feel like every time there's like an incident with rain, or there's like a red flag because of rain delay, there's all these talks about how NASCAR should shift to doing like the Formula One thing where we drive on slicks and we drive on like really wet tires. Do you think that you could ever see like the higher levels implementing something like that, or would it just be like a disaster waiting to happen?
I don't know. I mean, NASCAR, there's so many different strategies that you can implement in a NASCAR race because it's so long. And the tire degradation, the fuel windows, they all kind of play a part. And the NASCAR race is so strategic. You get a 2, 3, 4 hour NASCAR race, you have just as much strategy as you would in a 24-hour IMSA race, just because the cars use up, all the consumables so quickly. So, I think there's a lot of work that NASCAR could do, but I don't think that NASCAR has enough history, especially with rain races, to kind of build a program for that. And it's not really their fault. It's just the nature of, they don't run many road courses, and then you look at the percentage of rain road courses they race, and it's going to be a really long learning curve for NASCAR, and that's just a function of not running road courses or in the rain very much.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, Do you feel like those the stages that we have on road courses like implement like do you feel like if we didn't have them there'd be more strategy, or do you think there's more strategy that we have the stages?
I think the strategy is affected a little bit with the stages, but it's, I mean, you have so many of these cautions. I mean, look at the road course racing in NASCAR now. It's telling someone else, and no one's at fault here. It's just the way the sport is right now. You get, 5 to go in a stage, or 2 to go in a stage, or 5 to go at the end. And, it's almost like the crew chief comes on the radio and says, hey, turn your brain off real quick and go have at it. That's just the way it goes. So you got the yellows, and there's just so much stuff going on. So it's kind of hard to really talk about the strategies, just because there's so many. It's so far from, what you're saying, having no stages, just because you have stage points and playoff points and everything at stake there. It's so hard to really try and surmise, what would happen if.
There's so many, with the playoff points, stage points, like these stage restarts, it's crazy because you have the dynamic of all the people maybe in the back that stay out because they want to get stage points. And then there's like a 3 to go restart at the stage, and then it's just chaos because you got guys in the back on fresh tires trying to gain time, guys at the front on old tires just struggling. And like the ends of these races, I think, are the most chaotic. And I think they've been the most chaotic in the Cup Series, which has been odd. It seems like every Cup Series road course race has ended on like a under 4 to go restart that's just ended in absolute chaos. Like for you as a driver that's come over and did other road racing, was it like a surprise, or did you have to adjust to some of these restarts where you're like going into a corner, like say like Indy road course, and you're like 7 wide, people are hitting you everywhere, front, back, side? Or
I mean, it's one of those things you kind of got to get to grips with. Being in the top 10 with less than 10 laps to go at MidOhio last year in the ARCA or the Xfinity car. They were telling me on the radio, they were like, hey man, like better toughen up for these last few laps because stuff's going to get crazy. And I thought I knew what I had to do. Right. But lo and behold, I had no clue what was about to happen. So, it is very, very different. When I was racing over in British F3, British F3 is one of the, I'd say, raciest series. I did that and Carrera Cup Germany, which is also an extremely competitive racing series over there. And those are probably the 2 series for road courses I think you can run in. It's just, you go there and, someone might bump you and you're like, what the heck's going on? Like, what's this guy doing? And then you come over here and guys are just body slamming people and just taking them out and having no regrets. And that's just, it's a very different approach. Other series guys drive, 100% on that last restart. Guys over here are driving 150%. So, there's not much respect, and it's just the way it is. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. It's just the way it is.
We're going to wrap it up here. We got our great guest, Kris Wright. And I wanted to ask you, obviously we've talked a lot about you transitioning from other forms of racing to NASCAR, getting used to stock cars, but I want to talk to you kind of just about the experience of being there for these race weekends, these NASCAR race weekends. I most notably, when I was at Daytona in February, I was, myself, I was just chilling there, taking in the Daytona 500. This was the first one I got to go on a pit road for. So thought it was cool. I'm just sitting there kind of taking stuff in. I turn around and somebody tapped me on the shoulder, and it's Kris Wright. I'm like, oh, Kris Wright's here. And you were dressed up too, man. You were like in your Florida outfit. You had some button up shirt going, and you were just chilling, sunglasses and everything. And I was like, wow, Kris Wright's here chilling, enjoying the Daytona 500. So just kind of summarize, even maybe that day, the 500, getting to be there for that, and just the NASCAR experience in general. How's it been like for you?
Yeah, it's been interesting, let's say. I had one of my buddies with me this past weekend at Watkins, and he's never been to a NASCAR race. He went to one of my Pro Mazda races up at Watkins, and I told him, I was like, hey, it's gonna be a little different of an experience for you. So, take it all in and let me know what you think. So Friday night, I took him out on the golf cart, and I just kind of drove to the infield and showed him the whole crowd and what are NASCAR weekends really about. And his jaw just dropped to the floor, and he was like, man, this is awesome. But yeah, I mean, the 500, that was the first, I guess, big time race I've been to. I mean, I've been to the 24 a few times, but yeah, the 500 was really cool. I didn't have anything to do that weekend or the week after, so I told my dad and mom, I'm like, hey, like, I'm just gonna stay down for the race because I got nowhere to be. And first Daytona 500 of the next generation car is going to be kind of cool to see. But yeah, I was blown away at that whole event. I mean, it was amazing. So yeah, I mean, NASCAR it's such a different, I guess, atmosphere than all the other racing series that I've been in. All the other racing series they're on the same playing field. I mean, you have guys from Japan coming over here and guys from here going over to Germany, and all the racing, the crews, the drivers, everything it's all on the same playing field. The sports car guys, the IndyCar guys, a lot of them came from the same background and a lot of them end up in the same spots. And, that's its own little world. But then you have NASCAR that's it's really its own motorsport, in the racing community. So it's very different to see. But yeah, I really like it. And, the teams play such a big role in this sport. The crew guys, the guys at the shop, everything is it's so much different. There's a lot more that can go right and a lot more that can go wrong over here. And yeah, it's fun. And it's more of a, I guess, family atmosphere because you're with these guys, for half the year, over half the year. I know the Xfinity guys are 32 races, 33 races, and then Cups almost 40. So you develop a really, really strong relationship with all the guys in the garage, even guys that are on my team. I know a lot of faces, and you see them, week in, week out. So that's kind of interesting.
Exactly. I think of the garage is more of like a family, especially when I get to go to the racetrack. It's really nice, especially kind of in like the Xfinity and truck garages. It feels like there's a lot more of the smaller teams, and like a lot of the smaller teams are kind of in their own bubble where they all just work with each other, and a lot of them are all our friends and family and stuff like that. And you mentioned how you're with these guys throughout the week and everything like that. And you got a little of a new beginning here with Brandon Built Motorsports, but kind of like the week schedule, what's a week like for you and your guys kind of at the shop? Like Monday, obviously have a lot of the meetings, and then you're just gearing up for race weekend after that. What's usually a race weekend look like for you in NASCAR?
So for this past week, we were just kind of this past week for Watkins was kind of just running around their hair on fire, trying to get the seat ready and trying to get the cars kind of built like in the cockpit for me. So it's just a lot of stuff that usually doesn't happen. So with Brandon Built, I can't give you a great answer because I've only had one experience or 1 week of experience with these guys. But like this week, like I'm flying home tonight. I got to go meet with some sponsors and try to raise some more money for the rest of the season and try to lock up some stuff for next year. But yeah, I mean, when I was at Nice, what I do is, wake up, go to the gym, go to the shop, 3, 4, 5 hours, hang out with the guys, talk to them, have meetings and do all that kind of fun stuff. But most of it's just kind of being around the shop, just learning, just, being a face in the building, hanging out with the guys because you're going to be with them a lot. So you might as well get used to it.
How about the reception from fans? Because I feel like even as a smaller team, while you're really fighting for your spot on the track, there's also kind of a fight for media attention and for sponsorships and everything. So how has that kind of been from fans?
Yeah, so the fan, I got a lot of. I was surprised by the positive reception I got from the fans this week at Watkins Glen. So yeah, it was kind of cool. It's really cool, kind of being not known, but like I feel like I'm more familiar this year with fans than I was last year. being a rookie in Xfinity and trucks. So yeah, I mean, it's fun. Signing a lot of hats and t-shirts, whatever, just having fun. But it's been all good. And, people are, oh man, it's really cool you're Brandon built and, help them out and whatever. So, it's been a good experience thus far at Brandon built.
For sure. Yeah, that's good to see. I do have to ask you one thing that I remembered from Daytona weekend. So you're running the truck race, you were doing pretty well. And I remember talking to you after because you were not a happy camper at how that race ended, because it was another one of those like MidOhio situations where you're running good and then something happens, collision on track. But at Daytona, I mean, it's such an accomplishment to just be able to finish a race with a clean race car, race truck, or whatever you're doing. And
yeah,
you were almost there until you got
like
wiped out or walled or something like that. You were not happy. So like as a racer, like especially when you have to, as a whole race team, a smaller race team, whatever it happens, like how like it just sucks, especially when it's out of your control. When you have a clean race going, especially Daytona, it's looking all good, and then boom, not anymore.
Yeah, that was rough. I was in a really great position. Helping my team. And, we were in the right spot. We were in the top 10 with, I think 2 laps to go, and we were going to make high side work and coming across start finish line. I think it was for the white flag lap. And we were going to,
that was the caution that ended the race, I think.
Yeah. And,
was wrecking on the front.
Spotter got on the radio and said, hey, your teammate's going to go high. So just follow him up there, and you guys should, make hay down that back stretch and really go to war in 3 and 4. So, we're really looking forward to that. But I got cut short, just past the start finish line on that white flag lap.
God, yeah, and the whole field was like decimated. I think the lap before, right? Like the entire field just crashed.
Yeah, there was
20 trucks right before that. You made it through.
Yeah, we we had a plan going in. It was at 100 laps, and we were like, just hang out in the back, 50 car lengths from the guy in front of you, all 3 or 4 of you guys just hang out for 90 laps. And then, when it gets down to rug cutting time, you guys got to get your elbows up and get your gloves on and go to war. So we had a really good plan, worked out really well for, 99 laps.
99 laps. Yeah. Sometimes that's all that kind of takes place. So we'll kind of start to wrap up here with the last topic. And Celia, if you want to jump in as well, we're just going to talk about the rest of the season here. Kris, you got some races left with the Brandonville team. Obviously not going to run all of them, but you're going to run the majority of them for the rest of the year. So is there a track you got kind of circled that you're looking forward to most?
Looking forward to Phoenix. We had a pretty good truck there last year. And that got, cut short on lap 1, obviously. But, looking forward to Phoenix. I felt really comfortable there. And with the truck we had some pretty good speed. So that's definitely up there. But Darlington, I've run really well at Darlington this year and last year. So just excited for that. But I also, in the back of my mind, got to realize these cars drive so much differently on the ovals, and they're running the wall quite a bit. And it's running the wall on TV. It looks nice and easy, but it's so different and so difficult. So just trying to learn a new style of driving on these ovals. So I wouldn't say I'm looking forward to anything. Just kind of, before I look forward to anything, I just have to learn about these cars and stuff. So I'm just prepared for a really big learning curve for the rest of the year.
Yeah. Are you like already planning your throwback for Darlington? Like, are you getting a certain look, or like maybe ordering something, like planning that out?
No. On a sadder topic, we had our dog down yesterday, and
sorry.
Yeah, it's been pretty rough past 24 hours for me, but we're planning maybe a little something for my dog.
That would sound good. That'd be great.
Like a paint scheme.
Yeah, doing something. We don't know what, but we're talking about doing something.
Oh, that's an awesome.
That's so cute.
Everybody stay tuned for that. Hopefully that all comes to fruition. So yeah, the rest of the year, I guess looking forward to Phoenix. Hopefully I'll get to see you down in Homestead, right? Because that's my next trek after Daytona. So that's where we'll be hanging out down in Homestead. And then I'm hoping to get to Phoenix as well. So I know for you, you're just kind of learning the rest of the series, the Xfinity series, where you want to be next year.
Looking like it. We haven't really planned anything for next year just because everything's been so shaken up for the past 2, 3, 4 weeks with my plans this year. So just kind of focus on the end of the year this season. But I think in the back of my mind and people on my side of the fence, we're definitely looking at Xfinity season next season.
Awesome. We'll be glad to have you in the Xfinity series for sure. So as always, it's been another great episode of Off the Record. Thank you for Celia, our new co-host, for joining us, and Kris Wright, of course. Great guest. Always enjoyed talking to you, and hopefully I'll see you soon at the racetrack. And for everybody watching, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you all next week.